In this lesson, we'll work on the Flexi Line's twist rig. So here's how this is going to work. We'll create a new set of helpers, and these helpers are going to be look-at constraint. And the beauty of working with look-at constraints is that we can create up nodes to drive the twist axis of each constrained object. So what that means is we can then create an expression to drive the twist distribution with these connect curves. Alright, so let's say we get started by first going in and hiding our Flexi Line. So that's selected, we'll head over to our Display tab, and underneath the Hide rollout, we'll choose Hide Selected. Alright, that way we can work with these anchors a little bit easier. Let's go in and select all of the anchors now. We'll go ahead and press the H key, and we'll find all of those objects and choose OK. Alright, so with them all selected, we'll press Ctrl V to clone them as copies. And now we need a convenient way to resize them and to change their display. We can't do that from the Modify panel with multiple objects selected. However, we can use a few lines of code to get this done quickly and easily. Let's right-click at the bottom left to open up our listener window. Alright, from there, what I like to do is just go in and clear all of the code out from the top and the lower section as well, just so we're working with a clean slate. So just press Ctrl A to highlight all of the text, and then press Delete to wipe it all out. Alright, so here's the code we'll use. This is really basic stuff. We'll hold down Control and scroll forward, and we'll type in as follows. That's going to be $.box, that's what we're changing the display to. And we'll have that equal to 1. When we hit Enter, notice that each display has been changed to the box display. Alright, let's say we go ahead and turn off the center marker on each of these objects so that the only center marker we see are those of our anchors. So again, this is going to be simple. That's going to be $.center marker, and we want that equal to off. Great. So another good idea would be to resize these objects so they're a little bit smaller. That's going to be $.size, and we'll have that equal to, let's say, 3. Much better. Let's close out of the listener window and rename these objects. Now these aren't going to be our bone objects. They're going to drive our bone objects. So let's go ahead and give them a naming convention of Flexi BN DRV followed by A01, and we name the others alphabetically. So the next one is going to use the same naming convention. That's going to be BN DRV B01. I'll pause the video and take care of the others. Now that they have all been renamed, it's now time to link them to their anchors. So the other set of helpers that we'll create and use as our up nodes, again, they'll all be linked to these anchors. Let's go in and grab each one at a time. We'll go ahead and use our link tool to link to the anchor. We'll test this by pressing page up just to make sure that that is the parent. So we'll go through and do the same thing for the others. And again, we'll use page up to move up one level in the hierarchy just to make sure that we have linked to the correct object. I'll pause the video and again take care of the others. Okay, so each has been linked. The next thing we'll want to do is go ahead and freeze the transforms of these objects. Now when we do that, because of the path constraint that still exists on the cloned objects, I'll show you that. So because of this path constraint, we may notice that a few of our helpers shift out of the positions that they're currently in. But no worries, we could always use a quick align to snap them back to be aligned to the anchors they're supposed to correspond with. So we'll just go through and select each of our new helpers. And we'll now alt-right click and choose Freeze Transform. And you can see they have shifted, but no worries, let's go ahead and align them back. So this object here that should be aligned to anchor D, with it selected, we'll press Shift A to use our Quick Align tool and align it to the correct anchor. So this one needs to be aligned to E. Let's take care of that. C looks like it's just fine. So let's now move to helper B, and then finally A. Now you can see they still keep their parent object. All right, so that's just fine. So all we need to do now is just go in and freeze them. So just go through, select each. I'll right-click and choose Freeze Transform, and no longer will they shift. And you can see that the path constraint has also been wiped clean. So we're left with a 0 position list. So if we were to accidentally move a few of these, oops, we could always right-click and choose Transform to 0. Okay. Let's go ahead and now create another set of helpers, and these will act as our up nodes that will control the twist axis of each of these helpers here. All right, so we'll just go through and select them all of our box helpers. With them all selected, we'll hold down Shift, and we'll go ahead and drag them up to not only clone them, but also to move them in place for the up control to work correctly. We don't want them to be right on top of the constraint object because we'll run into flipping that way. So we'll choose OK and take a look at the direction that we will constrain in. So the y-axis is going to be our look at axis, but the z-axis will be our source axis that will control the twisting. So we'll get to that when it's time, and we're just about ready for that. But with all of these selected, it'd be a good idea to change their display just to avoid any confusion. So back to the listener window. Let's go ahead and change the display from box to cross. So I'll go ahead and go to the box line, and we'll type in off. So that should remove them or turn off their visibility. And at that point, we can go ahead and type in $.cross. We'll have that equal to 1. Great. And we'll also drop their size, let's say to 1. All right, fantastic. All right, so now that these have been adjusted, we can go in and rename them. So again, their naming convention is going to change just for clarity. This is going to be Flexi Up VCT for up vector. And then the rest of the name will be the same. So that's going to be A, B, C, D, and E. So I'll pause the video and take care of the others. Okay, so now that each of these have been renamed, we're just about ready to freeze them. But before we do, we'll need to create group objects that will drive the twisting of these up nodes. So the groups, they'll pivot from the anchor objects. That way we get the right twisting from the right spot. So let's go ahead and group these. Starting with up vector A, we'll go ahead and grab our group tool. We know we can access the group tool from the group menu here, or if you've added it to your quad menu, you could also access it here. And we'll name the group the same name of the object, but for the suffix that's going to be underscore grp01. So it's going to be flexi underscore up VCT underscore A, and then again, to end the name, that will be grp01. We'll choose OK. The next step will be to open the group, so we'll use Alt right-click to do that, and we'll go ahead and grab the Open tool. All right, there we go. So now we can select between the group and the up node. Now the last thing we'll want to do here is make sure that the group's pivot is aligned with the anchor object. So with the group selected, we'll head over to our hierarchy panel. We'll choose Effect Pivot Only, and now we'll press Shift A to grab our Quick Align tool and align the pivot right there at the anchor. All right, so let's go ahead and do that for the others. It might be a good idea to copy the name of the up vector object, just so we can rename the group a little bit faster. So with it selected, we'll press Alt right click and go ahead and grab the group tool, paste the name of the up node, and after B, that's going to be underscore grp01. Choose OK. Alt right click, choose Open, grab the group, choose Effect Pivot Only, and now we can press Shift A to access our Quick Align tool and align the pivot to the anchor. All right, beautiful. So let's do that for the other helpers. Okay, so once each group has been taken care of, we should notice that the up vector objects themselves, their pivot should be exactly where they need to be, right in the center, whereas the group, again, should be aligned to the anchor. All right, so once we've double checked to make sure of that, we're basically then ready to go ahead and freeze our transform. So let's go ahead and highlight all of these up helpers and their groups. Well, right click and choose freeze transform. All right, so guess what? It is now time to work on our constraints. All right, so let's go ahead and take care of that. We could always start from the beginning here. So we are constraining the BNDRV objects. We'll constrain to the anchor before it. So BNDRV is going to be look at constrained to anchor B. That's what it will look at. However, it's going to point at the up object in the z-axis. That's the source axis. So let's go ahead and get this going. We'll grab BNDRVA. We can alt-right click to grab our look at constraint and select anchor B. All right, great. You can see a view line has been created. I like to go ahead and turn that off. It's not really needed. You can use it just to make sure your direction is correct, but here we already know what the direction is. And to take a look at that with BNDRV selected, I'll just go ahead and go to the rotation list and scroll down. Here's the look at constraint. And you can see we have some information here as far as what direction we're looking in. So I'll go ahead and change that to the y-axis. I'll make sure that the up node control type is set to look at. We'll turn off the view line length. And we'll also go ahead and make sure that this view line length's parameter is set to 0. So we can always right click to zero out that parameter. If you would like to work with the view line, if you'd like to use that to assist you, you most certainly can use that, but I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. All right, so we've taken care of the look at axis, that's the Y. We've also made sure that the up node control type is set to look at, so this is all going to work properly. The next thing we need to do is go ahead and choose our source axis, which is the z-axis. Now we need to define what object should be the source, and that is, of course, the up vector object. So that's up vector A. Let's turn off world, and we'll choose none, and now we can go ahead and click on object A, and you can see that now it has been assigned. So watch this. When we go ahead and grab our group, we should notice that it drives the rotation of our BNDRV object. Now, as of right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. Let me go ahead and just double check to make sure that this has been assigned properly. I'll go back to the up node object, and it looks like it's actually the group that we're pointing at, so I'll just go ahead and make sure that it's not the group, but instead it is the up vector object. The reason why we saw no twisting is because the group's pivot is right on top of the constrained object. But now watch this. If we grab the group and start to rotate, now you'll see twisting. Beautiful. So we just want to make sure we assign the right up object. All right, so once that's taken care of, we can go ahead and move to the next object. Again, we grab BNDRV, this time B, and we're going to constrain to anchor C. So with the bone driver object selected, we'll press alt-right click and we'll grab the look at constraint, and now we'll go ahead and select the anchor it should point at. We can go ahead and turn off the view line. We'll make sure that the look at axis that our up node control is set to look at. The source axis should be the z-axis, and then we'll want to turn off world here as our up node type, and we'll want that to instead be the up node object. Let's make sure it's not the group, but the actual object. Might have to zoom in a little bit closer to make sure that Max reads the correct object. Great. So from there we can test this out by just rotating the group, and you should notice some twisting. What I'll do is pause the video and take care of the others except for the last one. That one is going to change just slightly, but we should have an idea of how to take care of objects C and D. So let's go ahead and take care of those, and I'll show you how to take care of E to finish up. Alright, so everything up till D has been taken care of. So now it's time to work on E, and the only thing special about this last one is in order to make sure that the y-axis points correctly, we simply need to make sure that the look axis is flipped. Alright, so here's what we'll do. We'll take BN DRV E, and we'll want to look at anchor D. So we'll go ahead and grab our look at constraint and look at that anchor object. So you can see it's going to flip the axis. A clear way to see this is to select the constraint object. We could always set this to local. Alright, so that will show you its orientation. So to clean this up, it's just a matter of, again, using the same settings. So we'll turn off view line. We'll go ahead and turn off the view line length parameter, set that to 0. We're going to use Y as the look at axis, so that's good to go. We'll also make sure that the up control is set to look at. We know that it's the Z axis that we want to point in, and we also know that it is the up node control here that should drive the twist axis, so we'll go ahead and assign that. So you can see that the Z axis is pointing correctly, the Y axis is not. No worries, we just go to the select look at axis setting here, and we set this to flip, and now everything's good to go. So here's the exciting part. When we go ahead and grab our connect control, as we start to move this around, you can see that all of the helpers are oriented properly. Really cool. Go ahead and take a look at our bend control. Go ahead and grab the bend object, start to move that around. Fun stuff. All right, well, what that means is that we need to finish up our twist rig by setting up our expressions. Let's take care of that in the following lesson.